What is the proper role of the federal government in a situation like what is going on in Portland? Open insurrection and government allied with the insurrection. Well, let's not, let's not exaggerate here. I don't think the federal government has much to say in what is going on in Portland. This is primarily in terms of police. This is the job of the local police and Oregon state government and state police to keep the peace. And of course, the problem is that we have a theory of free speech that says that anybody who wants to march should be granted a permit to march, even if they're obstructing people's nice Saturday afternoon stroll in the park. Now, I don't believe that. I don't believe you have a right to assemble. Particularly, you have a right to assemble on your property. You have a right to rent a hall and do an event. You might have a right to rent a space and even in outdoors and do an event. You don't have a right to just march down the street, block traffic, and interfere with everybody else. I don't care if you're on the right, on the left, on the middle, or anything. You don't have a right to disrupt the lives of people who are not interested in what you're doing. Now, Portland and Oregon have an obligation as a government to protect innocent people from violence. Now, the violence here is from two sources. It's from a variety of different racist groups, white nationalist groups, and Antifa. And this has been going on in Portland for well over a year. And it is not just one-sided, although Antifa gets a pass and the white nationalists always get accused of everything. But both parties are to blame, and both parties need to be stopped. And both parties need to be put in jail. Both sides of this need to be put in jail. And it's a travesty that the police are not doing their job. On the other hand, it's a travesty that these marches are going on in the first place. I mean, again, you want to have a Proud Boys rally? Rent a hall. I'm with my family in the park. Suddenly you have to show up, and everybody opposes you have to show up, and everybody's yelling, and everybody's screaming at one another, and maybe violence erupts. Get a break. Rent a room, as they say, right? Don't bring your don't bring your confrontation and violence into my park. So I am not an advocate of all of these marches and all of these publicly staged events. I think in these cases both sides represent real evil. I don't think there's anybody there except the innocent bystanders who happen to get caught up in it who is innocent. I think one is provoking and would love to start the violence. The other is there to be violent and would love to provoke, and they're both basically equally evil. I don't see good guys any more than I saw good guys in Charlottesville. Everybody was a bad guy in Charlottesville. It's not like there were what was Trump's statement? There's some good people there. There were no good people there. I'm sorry, nobody counts as a good person who stays, and on both sides. Now, there might have been good people marching against the white supremacists, but there were no good people on the white supremacist or white nationalist side. If you're at a rally and you think you're there for good reason, even though it was organized by white nationalists, so why are you going to begin with? But let's say you accidentally, you didn't realize, you didn't read the poster, and you didn't notice who was sponsoring the rally. And then suddenly you start hearing chants from the people who are organizing the rally, who are the centerpiece of the rally. Blood and soil and Jews will not replace us. You either take a side against them or you walk away. But if you stay, you're not a good person. You're not a good person. Anybody who stays in a rally with a bunch of white nationalists, any more than leftists who stay in a rally with a bunch of Antifa people who are making those kind of statements, is not a good person. So, But the national government has no role to play there unless this turns into, kind of an internal civil war. It's not. It's not any. I mean, indeed, it's less. It's less disruptive to the lives of Portlandians than violence in Chicago. It's two gangs, just like gangs in Chicago, going up against each other every Saturday in a park somewhere, and the local government is not doing anything about it. The people who should be infuriated are citizens. They should vote. They should vote the people who are they should vote their politicians out of power because they're not doing the one basic thing the politicians have to do, which is protect them. They're letting these marches go on and on and on with no end. Their only purpose is violence. The only purpose is provocation. And that needs to be stopped, but it's not a reason for the federal government to enter unless you've really got civil war, any more than it's a reason for the federal government to enter because you've got all these shootings in Chicago, which are much worse. Many more people are getting killed in Chicago than in Portland. If you don't want to be exposed to the mess that is in Portland, don't go to the park where they're fighting. There's a gang fight every Saturday in this park in Portland. Don't go there. Now, I think it's disgusting that that's allowed to happen, but for 99.9% of the people who have any sense, who have half a brain, they know how to avoid it. Just stay away.
I wonder if I can ask you to capsulize. I know this is difficult. Can I ask you to capsulize your philosophy? What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute. That man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it. And that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality which has so far been believed impossible, namely a morality not based on faith.
On faith?
Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason. A morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary.
How does objectivism differ from the philosophies that many of us have been exposed to in our youths? Philosophies based upon religions, theologians, dogmatists.
The very first difference, objectivism tells you that it is not right, it is not proper to man to take anything on faith. Religion is a matter of faith. You accept a religion emotionally or because you were born to it. You have not chosen it rationally. What objectivism will tell you is that reason, man's reason is his basic means of survival. That is the most important faculty which he has, and he has to guide his life and make his choices by means of his rational faculty. He has to make his own choices, but he has to know how to make them. It is immoral for him to act on his emotions, to be guided by the whim of the moment. That objectivism holds as very wrong, very immoral. And morality, in fact, consists of following your reason to the best of your ability. So that rationality is the basic virtue from which all the others proceed.
My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
Tell me the value of selfishness.
use another word, self-esteem. The value of selfishness is that you esteem yourself as a value, that you live according to your nature, which means by the judgment of your own mind, and you respect your own mind, you respect your own ability to do the right thing, therefore you respect the possibility of being a morally virtuous person, and you regard yourself as a value worth preserving. To make a success of yourself in any line of rational activity is a great virtue, and people will attack you for exercising your ability, for hard work, for consistency, for ambition, and they will want to make you feel guilty of it. Mm-hmm. That is the greatest evil, according to my philosophy.
And wait, say that again. The greatest evil, according to your philosophy, is to attack an individual because of virtue.
What I call it is to experience or act on hatred of the good for being the good. That is attacking people for their virtues, for their achievements, for anything they have which is a value, actually, not for their flaws and not for their evil. In fact, people who preach that are the ones who are mawkish about the evil people, the failures, the liars, the cheats. Everybody who is weak suddenly acquires some kind of value. But anyone who is a success has to be attacked for his success.
And look at how you have been attacked.
Oh, I know.
How you have been criticized. There are many people in this country, forgive me, in this world who think you're daft.
They don't. They want you to think that.